We are recording.
Okay, so I'll call this board retreat meeting to order. Okay, so I guess I'll just go over, just the general statement of what we're doing. We were gonna review the board mission, vision, and working agreements. I think we're gonna talk about, board self-assessment, not so much conduct one. Review district integrated outcomes, strategies, and set board goals. Identify data sources for reporting on goals, and then I think because we will have more time, we can do some calendar report updates for board meetings, so. So yeah, when Sue and I did talk earlier today, I think we did decide because it was really full. And so we could discuss the board self-assessment and what we would, be doing and what that looks like, but implement it in the time where we do the superintendent assessment. Which I feel like we did something like that before. Am I wrong? Like score ourselves or how much, maybe.
A board self-assessment?
I thought I did something like that, but maybe I'm implementing something else I've done somewhere else and I don't care.
And when we calendar, if we decide it doesn't make sense back to back, but somewhere else, we can figure out how to find it. But
We'll discuss what that'll look like and what we're thinking about and looking for, processing it on. So I guess we can, do we wanna say what that is now then?
I think just, I think if we follow the agenda until that, overview of mission, vision, and working agreements, and then do a little.
We got like an agenda,
We kind of put around between, so I sent Annie and Michelle is who we were talking before, and then board leadership change, so I sent it to the three of you and got some feedback, and then Annie and I talked this morning and said, let's scale that part of it back so that there's more time for the goals part of it, which was perfect. So we have, and then I didn't get the chance since we talked to even sit at my computer, so I haven't
I know, all I have to do
updated
is
those,
but
but
it's
same
kind
thing.
of scratched around, I'm not really gonna worry about the time.
That's, yeah.
We'll just kind of guide through it,
Do you want me to make copies for the rest of the board?
or do you want me to forward it on or
Yeah,
something?
let's.
Would that work?
Yeah.
Let's forward it, okay, I'll forward it. And then,
And it's so there's a pretty chunky part of time for that self-assessment, which is like 3:45 to 5, somewhere in there. And so that'll pull that part out and give us more chance.
give it more time to.
Be ready to ignore the times on here.
Okay. So I said that's easier.
Thank you.
Would you send it,
So it's fresh.
you're sending the full thing? I thought you were sending the annotated.
No, we didn't really do it, we just.
Oh, okay.
We have to
Okay.
scratch on a piece of paper.
No worries.
So it's not original when you thought. And I seriously left work in a flash because I was gonna print out all the things so that I felt like I had everything, but I couldn't, so. Cause if I was at my desk, I had to be doing too many other things.
Oh, you mean you were working?
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a lot.
Turns out it was a retreat on first week of school.
Yeah.
We were talking this morning then.
Yeah, exactly. We had to find every 15 minutes where there was a window or something to talk. So the first thing listed on there is just reviewing the board mission, vision, and working groups. Kind of basically just what I said. So I'm not going to read it again. So we can start there. Instead of reading the whole thing.
Yeah. So it's posted on the but the district website, there's a drop-down menu on board, and we have the vision, mission, and working agreements in the same spot there.
Perfect.
Are we going to the website? Is that where you're?
Yeah, on
sending it?
the Mapleton website, anyone hopefully lunch next week. I didn't have to this week. I tried.
And go to the board section.
Yeah, under the board
Board
vision.
mission.
Um. And I just thought in terms of obviously like reviewing, it's important for the beginning of the year, and then some of you have context for like when and how this was developed. And I don't even think I know all the context, so.
I feel like we did a lot of redoing that, didn't we, right? Like the beginning of COVID museum.
I feel like Maisie was heading that thing up. Is that true? No?
She's like, oh,
Yeah, it's only 4 years.
I mean, remember doing it. I don't. It's I remember that. Yeah, if we like it at the end, we'll say yeah.
so the Mapleton School Board mission is to provide a supportive and safe learning environment where all students are encouraged and empowered to reach their educational and personal potential.
And that was actually I remember, like, we had that for a long time. We switched up.
Right? We
Like,
did like all students.
yeah, yeah. But we mostly kept it the same.
And I'll say, I love it. I try to write it into every grant agreement, newsletter, update. Like I
You
take
reference
that
words
language
and
as sometimes the whole thing, and just over and over try to incorporate, and it works for what we're up to. So
I thought that the strive to base all our decisions on what's best for students was incorporated into that first sentence.
the vision part of it.
Yeah, that the first bullet point in the vision, I thought was part of our mission. And we used to say it at the board meeting.
Yeah, we moved that. Like, we did, that was part of revamping.
Okay.
I don't know when. Well, I don't remember why. I think it was on somebody's, like, it's really not, like, or like they wanted the mission to be shorter, like more, like targeted. All of the vision. That was my memory. Like, it was because mission was too much, according to the discussion we had.
So everyone likes that? Is comfortable with it? I think it's pretty concise and exactly what it meant without saying too much like you were saying you do. Okay.
I love a one sentence mission statement.
So the Mapleton School Board vision, we strive to base all of our decisions on what is best for all students. We believe that all students can learn and must strive to attain high academic achievement and personal growth. You may stop after each one.
Just keep going unless someone's got something to say.
We believe we must develop and nurture intellectual curiosity and a desire for discovery and achievement. We believe our curriculum must challenge, prepare, and inspire all students to be successful at the next level of their lives, to work and live as contributing members in a diverse society. We believe that strong partnerships with parents and the broader community are essential to achieving the goals of education. As such, we exercise open and transparent district communication and provide opportunities for participation, dialogue, and understanding. We believe it is essential to attract and retain the best staff members to serve the needs of our school community. We believe in supporting and empowering staff to continually improve instruction and student success in all modes of learning. We believe that adequate financial resources are essential for excellent outcomes. We believe in supporting and empowering our school community by treating everyone with dignity and respect.
Can I review?
No comments or anything?
I mean, nothing big. I don't really like this slide. We believe that adequate financial resources are essential for outcomes, just because excellent outcomes. I don't know, I wanted to say something like to meet out all the other, like, all other aspects of our vision, or, I don't even know. Like,
To achieve our goals.
yeah,
Or
something.
best potential outcomes or something, or?
It's not, the excellent outcomes part, I feel like isn't it's just not targeted, everything else is pretty targeted to like the school and the community or like a specific action, and that's just like excellent outcomes, and I feel like it's
Of what?
of what, you know, yeah, too broad. But that, it's not a problem with how it's said, it's just like, oh, excellent outcomes, easy to say, because it doesn't really mean anything, like,
What about to achieve our vision?
yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like it does apply to everything. It's like without adequate financial resources, we aren't going to be able to do anything. Right, we're put the ally there.
Sorry.
So, like, what were you saying? You said like,
To achieve our vision,
Yeah,
to achieve the board vision.
the district's vision or the board vision. I don't know. Doing these things is so hard because you can start picking out
Oh,
every single
totally.
word and stuff, and I don't want to do that. Like, we don't have to change it, but that was the only one that I was like, well,
Just change it. That's why
change
you-
it.
like the board to achieve essential for, you know, achieving board vision or something like that.
the resources are essential
Yeah.
to achieve.
to achieve board vision.
Mhm.
Vision or vision?
The board vision is fine. I don't know.
Okay.
It's all of that. It's all of the stuff.
All right.
Does it make sense to put that one last? So like,
I agree with you because it's like wrapping it up.
yeah, or to achieve this vision, or what I mean, the words
Vision.
is, yeah,
We'll
and
say
then,
that. We can say
The board
yeah,
vision.
yeah.
Okay, and then I'll just say this last.
I mean, something that I'm just seeing is that these are all belief statements except for we strive. And, you know, and
Oh, that's true.
So I sometimes slip and call it the school board beliefs because it feels like that, but then the
Right.
first one isn't necessarily a belief, it's like, it makes sense that it was in a mission.
that's what it was. Right, it was there. It was actually one sentence, but it incorporated that.
It's just longer, right?
It was longer.
Um,
Well, the,
or you just say,
the first statement and the last statement kind of say the same thing. Just differently, one's just a little bit more altruistic. The first one is a little bit more mission, actually.
yeah,
So we could put the last one first, maybe reword it a little bit, workshop it a little bit. But, they kind of the same thing.
One maybe thing, because that says Mapleton School Board mission, but I use it for a district mission all the time. What if that was Mapleton School District mission, and then that first sentence was Mapleton School Board mission, and they were to get together, like
you're the
Red
same
Bull
thing.
in there, yeah. I don't know if it makes sense to elevate that first part to a district level. I mean, when I use it, I don't call it the school board mission, I call it the district mission.
Yeah, we could just say it was school board and district commission.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't know if the district would have a different vision.
Exactly.
You hope.
I mean, the title is Board Vision, Mission, and Working Agreement. So this is the board's vision.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean.
I think
the board.
it's fine if sentences are the same on each side, right?
Mhm.
I think that makes it a little more easier.
Yeah.
Do we need to change that sentence that says we strive and say, we believe in basing all of our decisions on what is best for all students?
Sure.
Just so it's the same?
You know why we changed it to strive? Remember?
Yeah.
Because we weren't doing what was best for kids. We decided that we couldn't say that we do what's best for kids. We don't always do what's best for kids. Because we're required by law to do some dumb things. And some of us had problems with that. And that was really based on standardized testing. So now we are not testing them, but I think it's just a little bit humble to say we strive to do what's best because we couldn't possibly be doing what's best.
Okay. Believe in.
But we believe in basing is not saying that we always believe in
We believe.
it. That doesn't mean but we believe in trying to do it.
Mhm. Yep, that's fine. That's good. We believe in basing all our decisions.
All right.
And then that bottom part, I think Mary Ellen led
the
that
working
process.
agreement?
Yeah, and right now they say 22, 23. If we go through.
We do.
We should
have
have to. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right, so moving on to the board and superintendent working agreements. I'll just go to the purpose and talk. The board of directors is the educational policy making body for Mapleton School District 32 to effectively meet the district's challenges. The school board and superintendent must function together as a leadership team. To ensure unity among team members, effective group agreements must be in place. The following are the group agreements for the board and the superintendent.
I think there's a comma after to effectively meet the district's challenges.
Yeah, I agree, because I was stumbling on this. School board.
So I love this. Let's save this for.
Right, so no, I was just thinking, I have.
And this lives somewhere in Google Drive, but I don't know. Is there like a board Google Drive?
I don't think so. I've never seen one.
Okay, so at some point
You could have one.
we should
Yeah.
create that. I made an attempt at that last summer, but then realized some of the stuff I was putting into it was confidential to different groups.
Yeah.
I figured out how to do. Since then, I've learned how to do like a link to it that preserves some of that, but I just don't know where the originals live because I know like Mary, you guys worked on it with Mary Ellen,
Yeah.
but I didn't own a copy of it, so I don't know how to do it. But at some point, if somebody finds it,
Yeah, I mean, we can, yeah, and we can just like, this is just text, so we can copy and paste it into a new,
yeah, that's
and then.
yeah.
We can do this. It makes sense to have stuff.
So, yeah, that's especially with the new website. Like that's been
Yeah.
the biggest thing is like where are all these things? One, they can live on the website, but where's the folders for the
Yeah, we're
original?
going to find them, make the changes and then upload them. Okay. So governance principles. Number one, the board and the superintendent will work in a cooperative and collaborative partnership aligned towards a common mission. Seems good, right?
Towards the board mission, is that what you said?
No, toward a common mission is what it says. Like, we have that. And we didn't talk about making that the board and the district.
Right.
Number two, focus on policy making, planning, and evaluation rather than day-to-day operations. I think that plays into part later, like what we're discussing as far as like reporting and meeting pages of things versus. Number three, make decisions as a quorum only at properly called meetings. Board members recognize that individual members have no authority to take individual action in policy or district and school administrative matters. True. Four, support decisions of the majority after honoring the right of individual members to express opposing viewpoints and vote their convictions. Number five, recognize and respect the superintendent's responsibility to manage the school district and to direct employees in district on school matters. Number six, actively solicit input from the stakeholders, listen to all perspectives, seek expert advice as needed, and give careful consideration to all issues. We will operate as representatives and make decisions in the best interest of the whole district. Number seven, value the role we play in the community and represent the district when possible by attending school and community functions.
This is just a small thing, but, I just want to encourage us to get over things and work stakeholders.
I find it weird. I find it a weird word.
Yeah, it doesn't really belong in situated with stuff anyway, but we can just say community of interest or parties or.
Community, what was the one you said?
Yeah, relevant parties, community of interest,
What bothers you about that word?
stakeholders. It's a colonizing word.
Oh, yeah, thank you for that.
Literally.
Well, thank you, Mary.
I just
just
think
learned
more like,
something.
too, like, or a business or something.
It is. We're not a corporation.
Yeah.
I mean, I use that word and I'm not gonna use it anymore.
Yeah, it also is, I mean, I know people get their panties in a bunch of that. It is a little bit about that, but it is actually.
Yeah.
In the site of watershed.
Yeah, no, for real.
But aside from that, it isn't an appropriate word to use in this kind of.
Yeah,
It actually isn't the appropriate use of that word. From grammatical standpoint, she's not using that word, and that is the argument I'm gonna use in this space, but personally also is. Yeah.
We think of it more like back to corporate wise, like only taxpayers, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
You have to be a taxpayer
Yep.
to be a stakeholder. I think, you know,
It's not the appropriate, yeah, it isn't the appropriate use of that word, in this document, but also, we shouldn't be using that word at all. We took the watershed council took it out of everything, we used to use it in every.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, because it's always meant as whoever has an.
Yeah.
Businessy banking corporate term.
Yes,
Yes,
all of that,
relevant party or?
yeah.
Typically solicit input from us.
Communities of interest?
Communities of interest.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's
Relevant communities, yep.
Yeah.
You can throw that into all.
Do we need the phrase or?
I was gonna, relevant community seems right to me.
Actively solicit input from the relative community.
Maybe now, maybe not, relevant.
Like interested,
Yeah.
communities of interest
Relevant.
makes more sense. I mean, relevant makes it sound.
What if we said,
Have interest in this.
all members of our community? Then it's like,
Yeah.
There you go.
We're not saying like an individual word, we're saying like.
Yeah.
Community.
Sure.
Members of our community members. Community members.
Yeah, just community members.
Yeah.
Input from community members.
Needed.
Yeah.
Okay.
On number 5, recognize and respect superintendent's responsibility and demands of the school district and to direct employees in district on school matters. How about just say, and to direct district employees on school matters?
I thought there was a weird.
That's a district.
District.
What does that mean?
Yeah. District, to direct district employees on school.
Yeah.
Well, that is a weird word.
Okay. Everyone put on governance principles. Meeting operational agreement. Number 1, acknowledge that the board chair or vice chair and superintendent will agree before an item is placed on a meeting agenda. Number 2, uphold the legal requirement for confidentiality on all matters arising from the board meeting executive session. Uphold the legal requirement for confidentiality.
Yeah, can we just get rid of the, and then board, say have board meeting executive sessions?
Okay, number 3, start meetings on time.
That should be number 1. It's kind of funny.
Number 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. And then it's like, and start But there's this other thing too.
Number 4, attend regularly scheduled board meetings unless a situation occurs that makes attendance impossible, and notify the district office in advance if you are unable to attend.
Is that what we do?
District.
The
Yeah, I
district
never
office? I've never called the district.
No.
You talked
I
to
feel like
the,
we like each other.
We'll say board chair and superintendent,
yeah,
maybe.
Yeah.
Well, board
Okay.
chair and vice chair and superintendent.
Okay, so number 4 should say notify.
Yeah, this is definitely pulled for some bigger.
Mm.
The district.
Do you even have that anymore? The district office.
I mean,
It's me.
yeah.
Jaren's like,
Yeah.
If it's easier to tell Jaren or me, or like, we do a good job.
Yeah.
Saying who,
Right.
you know, those sort of things, but if you can't get all this, Jaren, Jamie,
Yeah.
they'll get it.
Number 5, cooperate in scheduling special meetings and or work sessions for planning and training purposes. We do that a lot. Number 6, cast a vote on all matters except when a conflict of interest arises. Okay. And then the communication agreements. Number 1, communicate directly, I'm just making a point for this one. Communicate directly with the superintendent and or members of the building leadership when a question arises or a concern is voiced by a staff member, student, parent, or community member.
And the building leadership.
It's a lot.
So like the principal, so like if there's a complaint at the elementary level, you have to, yeah.
The question arises. I guess so. It's working, but it's exactly the process.
What if, I mean, if you don't want it as word, you could say and or school administrators. Because building leadership, like, there's not a lot of us.
Yeah.
It makes it sound like there's 20 of us, like.
Communicate directly.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
District administrator, like it, we're all saying that,
Yeah.
administrators.
Number 2, whenever possible, communicate directly with the superintendent or administrator. Board chair. So we'll say directly with the superintendent and administrator or board chair prior to meetings of the board to identify questions and or concerns about agenda items so that the board chair, it just needs to be superintendent board chair.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree, I mean, it's
Members of
so
building
similar.
leadership.
Yeah, and it's so similar to that one about agenda items. But I guess it's,
Yeah,
yeah, that if we keep the same people, that's helpful.
it definitely came from a bigger district. So that if, we don't need.
So does everyone agree, it should say superintendent or board chair prior to meetings of the board to identify questions and or concerns about agenda items so that the board chair and staff.
And the superintendent can be prepared for the meeting. So that all parties.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, I think you could say.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and that may include me bringing a staff member to
Yeah.
explain something, so,
Mhm.
yeah.
All parties, is that what you said?
Yeah.
And the. Number 3, communicate directly with the superintendent or board chair prior to raising new issues or concerns at board meetings or in other arenas.
Or another arena.
Like the horse arena.
Like, what's I mean, this is part of
Yeah.
In all, I think just ending at a board meetings.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Yeah, no, I think that's,
Mhm.
I feel like it's different, it's almost seeming repetitive, but I guess it is different, because it's about a new issue, so. Okay, so end after board meetings. Number 4, communicate one-on-one when an individual concern arises with the superintendent. Number 1, member. Communicate one-on-one when an individual concern arises with the superintendent, member of her administration, or other board member as appropriate. Okay, so if you have a problem with any of these people, you should communicate one-on-one. Communicate with board leadership about concerns with board process. Can I do different things?
I was gonna say, doesn't that need to be?
I feel like the sentence kind of be its own, but communicate one-on-one when an individual concern arises with the superintendent, an administrator, or other board member. But do we go to the other administrators?
Well, I
Or
think
do
we
we
would
go to
go,
those two first?
I mean, it depends on the thing. I would think. I mean, as like, if I had a kid in the elementary and I heard something, relevant to elementary, I don't know, would it be more, I would think it probably isn't appropriate for me to, as a board member, to go talk to the principal. Yeah, like, maybe as a parent, it was just a parent thing and I was had a question of my kid or something.
Yeah, I think which hat you're wearing, like, if you're an elementary parent and you're talking to the elementary principal about
Wait,
elementary
I mean, that's
things,
true.
that's
I
different.
remember Julie telling me that many times, like, go in there and say you're a mom right now.
Yeah.
Before you start.
Yeah.
Even though you're not perceived
This is-
that way.
Yeah.
This is about communication agreement between the board and superintendent working agreement, right? So is this if something, like an individual concern has been arisen, has been brought? And this is like communication among us?
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing? Or is this like if an individual brings up a concern, this is what we tell them to do? Because this is confusing.
So like, what if a staff member brings, like, just is talking to me at a basketball game? And I'm like, hey, there's a problem here.
That's number 5.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Or not.
Yeah, so I think that this is like, okay, now Sue has been told about something and now she needs to get the board involved. Or the board has been brought something and now I think this is talking about how we need to communicate with each other when a problem has been or something.
Well, and I almost read it like if one of us has an issue with
Each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sue, I should
go to
Let's
let's have
have
a
a
one conversation versus
Okay,
join.
I like.
okay, that's what this is addressing.
Well, and that's why I was like,
Okay, so,
if I was having a problem with Joy or Kate, and like, am I supposed to go straight to them? Like, that's what I thought.
as a board member, I would prefer you come
Yes,
to me.
No,
exactly.
Don't do that.
So that I'm, so that, and I might say, go ahead and have a conversation.
okay.
Now you're clear.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
okay, so that's what we need to clarify with this.
Yeah.
And
because in the beginning, it's not very
it
clear.
isn't clear what this is saying.
So maybe when an individual concern arises, or when something concern arises, communicate one-on-one with the superintendent or other board member. Because we need to take out that member.
and maybe even among each other. What was it you said?
And when an individual concern arises, communicate one-on-one with the superintendent or member or other board member.
As long as it's not other board members,
Yeah,
because you can really.
and then I agree with Annie by saying take out the member of building.
Yeah.
Because that piece needs to be after we get direction.
Yep.
Yeah.
Back to number 3, communicate directly with the SUP or board chair prior to raising new issues or concerns at board meetings. We have board comments. And oftentimes that is when we do that. And before we've talked to you, we're like, oh, I had this thing, I never talked to you.
Yeah.
And in the past, and not any of us here, but years ago, there were a few board members that were really into the gotcha kind of mentality, like, I'm gonna get the soup at this meeting. Yeah, and we did have some soups that were not. They got to be gotten. But, yeah, I just think that that's something that if we're gonna say it, if it's in here, then we have to do it.
So yeah, so not bringing up a hard issue. So what's that really meant for?
Board comments?
Just like on today's meeting? Like,
I mean, I don't know. I think when it's board concerns versus prior to raising new issues or concerns, it's just out of respect and also for a nice vibe at the meeting.
Right.
We should do that.
And your question was like, so if it's not that, what is that part of the agenda? Is that what you're asking?
well, I mean, I know it's not really supposed to be for us technically bringing up
Yeah.
twice. I'm really wondering about this, so what is better types of comments do we make sure we keep it to, or like, to make sure I make you not say that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
is that, or, and then on the flip side of that, I'm like, well, when do we have time to like do that? That's a lot of external communication, which I feel like sometimes gets muddy and hard, but.
Yeah, even for most things, I'm fine with it. Like, I've never felt like, oh, got me here, and if I don't know something or I'm caught off guard, I have no problem saying like, hey, let's talk about that next meeting, or let me get more information, those kind of things. And usually it's late and we want to be done anyway. But if you have something and it's like, oh, that might be a surprise, just tell me walking into the meeting. And usually I'll be like, oh yeah, fine. Or if there's something that feels a little contentious, I might say, hey, can we put that on next month's agenda or something in between? Is that?
I mean, it's good, but and I'm hoping you're staying for 30 years, but this is for anybody.
Yeah.
So whoever's sitting in your position, we just want to be clear that we do this, we respect our chief operating.
Give them that.
Yeah. So I think maybe, one thing I'm thinking it is sometimes I'll be like, whatever happened to that issue that we had talked about, but like, did it get buried somewhere?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I will put that in my board comments time.
Yeah.
But bringing up new things, I just think if you're going to bring up new things and new concerns, you should get a heads up. The soup should get a heads up.
Yeah.
Preferably
But it's
before
been
the
a topic before. That's not new.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and it's not as important for us, right? Like, I bring an issue when you were board chair, and I bring this thing up, and so it's not a big deal to the board, right? If it's just, don't catch the superintendent off guard.
And other board members, because like, even though you may, like the board chairs might have talked about it, the board chair and vice chair might have talked about it. The rest of us don't know that.
All right.
Yeah, well, and that's why it always feels hard, because, like, let's say over the last 2 years, like, if there was something Michelle and I talked about, right?
Yeah.
And or maybe even Sue might have an inkling if they discussed it or something. No one else knows.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no like space to have meetings and it's a telephone game of hell. So like trying to communicate with
It
them.
has to go into a meeting and
It has to go into a meeting.
So like, how do you have an issue?
What if we clarify the agenda, like the agenda, will get built at this date or follow, right? If you have something you want to add to it, or a concern or a question, communicate that to the board chair, and we just kind of put a date on calendars that's like a reminder to everybody of, oh yeah, I do have a couple of things I've been wondering, and put it onto there. And then if it's something that, let's put it on the agenda so everybody knows it's going to be talked about.
Yeah.
Otherwise we can't really bring it up.
Yeah,
I mean,
some of
if
it's
you're
just
beginning-
cleaning up process and getting it
Right.
started,
If you brought it up to Sue and that's where it ended, that's not good. Because the whole board should know what you.
Yeah.
So it should get folded into the agenda somehow. It should be reported.
Like by a Monday. something maybe you thought over the weekend, and something like by Monday at least, it was email, email or tell the board chair, and she can add it last minute, right? Even if it wasn't.
It couldn't even be after the agenda goes out.
Yeah.
Because you can, at the beginning, do we have anything
Yeah.
to add? So, and just don't expect it to be added anywhere beyond discussion, I think would be the thing of like, oh, that could be a quick discussion for everybody, and then we name it at the beginning of the meeting so that people at least have a chance to think about, oh, that's nice.
Or they can always come back to it, I know.
Yeah, if it's too much, then we can say, noted, we're gonna put it on the agenda next month. Yeah, like that.
So I have no idea what we're trying to turn here, let's go. What number are we on?
Number
You
one.
went back to number 3.
I was gonna share real quick, and this isn't the one that, well, I can't kind of this big deal, but anyway, I'll say it if I was there too. But in 4J, obviously it's a huge district, but that was my favorite part of the meetings where they did board comments and they would share like a positive or praise, and usually it was just like acknowledging something that they'd seen or talked to somebody or got a chance to go to this community event, or I went to this training and heard this thing and it connects in this way. Like there's ways to like pull that all together, but that's how they use it. And it,
So the things at the
That's
end, that board comment thing at the end, maybe we just say it for tiny snippets, whether we have one or not.
yeah,
That's what
it
I
can be
was.
acknowledgements too. Like it doesn't always have to be on the concern side. It can be on the like, we want to acknowledge
for
this.
sure.
Because like those I can take back, like if it's, you want to be careful about staff specific, but there's a
I
lot.
saw the journalism class, I was doing this thing, Tom, I thought it was a great job.
And
Yep.
I can take those back as something from them. So. And you guys give a lot of acknowledgement through the meeting. It doesn't have to land in that spot, but I do like when you
But
do that.
like, cause I'm
Yeah.
really, I don't know, just personally, really trying to focus on, like, I really took away what that lady said at, I forget what her name, Janet?
Yeah.
Like, of trying to help keep focus, like what we wanna hear from Sue, or like, trying to find a way to like, keep enough stuff in there, but like, maybe we can go home before 9 o'clock on board meeting. So it's like, trying to find a way to keep things in there, but not let it just be spewing everywhere.
Yeah. Do you know there are districts that do not, that the board has no role in creating the agenda? Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
They're on agenda.
It's, that, I mean,
For their
yeah, for their meeting,
Yeah.
I know that the.
There's no board guidance anywhere that says that.
Yeah.
I'm sending this to one of my friends who serves on a board that does that, and I just want him to see our meeting operational agreements, because he would love to have Mapleton go the way we do things.
It's weird.
What we just discussed about the new issues was bracket number 3, right?
Yeah.
So communicate, now we gotta figure out how I'm gonna say it. Communicate directly with,
Actually, I mean, I think it says
I
like,
think, yeah, I think
now it's fine.
yeah,
yeah.
we were just talking through it to make sure that what we're saying in number 3. So I think it's.
So now you can bring up at the beginning of the meeting even, and
Add it to
We
the
decide,
talk about Jim, and then we make sure.
yeah, like should it be added to the agenda, or should we say next, should we add it to today's agenda, or should we wait and add it?
Well, that's good.
That's
Precedent too, because like I've done that to the end of meetings,
Yeah.
and bring up an
We
issue.
do it. A lot of times it's because you're sitting in the meeting, all of a sudden you're focused on all the things.
Yes.
that, like,
up in the,
yeah.
because I
Yeah.
don't that's the only thing about in the middle of the month. I'm like,
It could be. What if we? I mean, I don't think it's out of. I mean, we always ask at the beginning, are there any agenda updates? But what if at the beginning of discussion items, there was are there any other agenda items that we want to add? I mean, it just might get long. That's the only thing.
I mean,
so.
I think it's okay. I think we can just be better about it. Like, if it's something that ends up needing to be on the next agenda, yeah, so be it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too, because sometimes at the end of meetings, I'm like, I have something that I want to say.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I just want to hold.
Yeah.
So then
Yeah.
you go on.
But that might be the spot to like write it and hand it to the board chair and say, can you make sure that's on the next agenda?
Yeah.
Somehow, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Did you just say that it's, what did you say, that the state doesn't
I said there's no
board.
no
guidance.
no great board guidance anywhere that says that the board shouldn't be making their or involved in making the agenda.
Yeah.
It's the board's meeting.
Yes, it's.
Okay, so on number 4, do I put down that we pull that last sentence out on its own line, or do you just leave it?
I think it should be its own line.
It should be.
Yeah, because we have, when an individual concern arises, communicate one-on-one with the superintendent or other board member as appropriate.
Yeah.
And then make that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Number 5, when a board member receives an informal complaint, listen carefully and empathetically. Direct the person to solve the problem at the lowest level. Talk to the teacher, talk to the principal, talk to the superintendent. That's pretty much what we always say.
Yeah, but 2 things. One, maybe you could say lowest relevant level. Because like, you know.
Lowest and low.
Yeah, lowest relevant level.
It does make the teachers sound
But the
low.
lowest.
Yeah. Lowest level.
Yeah, it's not intended, but you're right.
Or something like that.
Start with that, please.
Rattle down that. Yeah. And then like teacher has a period after, superintendent has a period after, principal doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay. Period.
This one I've been noticing lately, if we're not gonna capitalize teacher principal, we should not capitalize superintendent.
Yeah.
It's the same thing of like, board, small
Yeah.
board.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually think all board should be capitalized.
But what?
Yeah, like board should always be
Right, as an
capitalized.
entity.
Yeah,
So what do you want to do? Take the capital S off superintendent or add a capital P and T?
Well, you know what? It's rare to see teacher capitalized.
That's
If we
right.
have a moment to do it, let's do it.
Yeah.
So
Versus the other.
that's just a blanket statement, right? So that Jaren can look all through it, or whoever's doing it.
Yeah, and we'll,
Overall, make teacher capital and principal.
Or just like any word that is,
Okay. Number 6, formal complaints must be put in writing and signed by the superintendent. These are heard by the superintendent or designee. Complainants may appeal the superintendent's decision to the school board. Oops.
well, you know, shouldn't this just refer to?
this is a board policy.
Yeah, to our complaint policy, our board policy, was it
So,
KL?
wow.
I think. Don't like look it up to see if it's
Do
right.
you have that in your head?
I thought it was in the A's, but if you're right, now I'm checking. I'm impressed.
That's amazing.
That's what I'm gonna start doing in meetings, just say 3 letters.
Oh, yeah. But I think it's K. Never mind.
So what do we say then?
Here, I'm gonna go with it.
We have for Zoom.
Well, and what if, I mean, really what you're saying is start at the teacher, principal, superintendent, and then what if just file a formal complaint was the 4th?
You take out that next line. And then formal complaint. You got it.
We do it separate, yeah.
I don't think so, because even a formal complaint comes usually after talking to the superintendent, it's just.
It can be a follow-up,
It's,
yeah.
yeah, it's just that it wouldn't be, I don't know.
So what do we do? Number 6, besides take out the word as.
I would add reference to the, whatever it actually is, to the,
Maybe that's what I'm supposed to say there.
because the policy is very specific. Is it KL?
So the ones that I have been looking at lately are in the A section, there's discrimination and harassment complaint processes, and so those exist, but the public complaint process overall is KL.
A lie.
What?
Whoa.
I don't know. pieces of information you don't have to have in there. Why?
That's something you're taking up space.
Take
in
it
there.
out, USPA trivia night. Only one.
You know some others.
I think that's probably, yeah. And I didn't know I knew it.
Random music.
No kidding.
Yeah. Well, it's the one that we put out there the most, I think.
These are just preparing for Jeopardy.
That's happened a lot.
Not like even, but I think we do tend to put it like it's on, like it's in stuff we send out.
Yeah.
I've never made notes of that.
That's okay.
It's piecing you now that we know.
Right.
And it does start with, I don't know if any of this language helps in that, but board members recognize that complaints about schools may be voiced by employees, students, parents of students who attend a school in the district, and persons who reside in the district. When such complaints are made to a board member, the board member shall refer the person making the complaint to the superintendent or designee. A board member shall not attempt to respond, review, handle, or resolve such complaints as the individual board member has no authority to do so.
Yep.
So this piece, if formal, when such complaints are made to a board member, the board member shall refer the person making the complaint to follow the AR. I mean, that's kind of the.
So I mean, I think we just put in there that like it is. It's funny. I mean, formal complaints. We should maybe like formal complaints shall be submitted according to the policy, and then I mean maybe that's it.
Yeah,
And
for sure,
we put is just
for
like
sure.
saying the same thing.
Yeah, and this is our communication agreement, so we refer to that. Yeah.
So formal complaints shall be submitted in writing.
Following board policy KL.
We
Wait.
all know that now.
Well played, Annie.
We don't need it in the same frequency as we need right and left.
That's really good.
Like a little R curve.
Yeah. If the complainant is not willing to speak to the superintendent, a board member may share the issue and the source of the complaint, concern, or criticism of the district with the superintendent. The superintendent will keep the board's informant source confidential at the request of a board member, but every effort should be made to encourage trust and open communication. This is the best of full understanding the resolution. Okay. 8, a board member with a routine question should first consider going to the board chair or the superintendent. A board member who desires staff assistance beyond routine inquiry should first raise the issue at a board meeting. The entire board should then decide whether to proceed before staff is allocated. Number 9, no individual board member other than the board chair or designee has the authority to speak for the entire board. Individual board members may always share their individual viewpoint, but must clarify that they are speaking for themselves rather than the entire board. The board recognizes that changing technology and the growing use of social media will affect the way individual board members communicate to and interact with constituents and receive and process information.
Wow, that was a wordy.
I know, like I'm true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also kind of think that last sentence just. Like we're beyond that, we do all.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so above that, no individual board member other than the board chair or designee has the authority to speak for the entire board. Individual board members may always share their individual viewpoint, but must clarify that they're speaking for themselves rather than the entire board. The board recognize, no, and then the end, okay.
Can I just actually, can we just say that they are speaking solely for themselves? Like, I don't
Then
want
say that.
the entire board, like that's just.
Speaking, yeah, solely for themselves.
And I would say that the board chair or designee has the same right to share their individual viewpoint as their individual viewpoint. Like, they would have to designate that they're
So
speaking
yeah,
as
so
the
you,
board chair.
you clarify that, right?
Yeah,
So like,
Um,
the one place where like, so like if we get an email to the board, then that should only be the response from the chair to say,
Right.
hey, we have this is the follow-up kind of thing, but like, that shouldn't, like, let's say we get something, Mary shouldn't be like, hey, I think this individually on that board email. It could be a conversation somewhere else. Like, that's the only forum where I think you shouldn't share
Yeah.
individual
Oh.
opinion. Does that make sense?
not totally. It wasn't what I meant, but it does make sense.
no, it's more like if, so you're being interviewed, right?
Yeah.
Or something, like, I could say the board feels.
Yeah.
This is how we feel on this thing.
As long as we've all
And
discussed it
then
in
where you
record.
take it maybe like 30 seconds or a question later, I say, but I personally feel like,
Yeah.
right?
That's what I'm
But I
saying.
think that would go for anyone.
Yeah.
But
it
just for not having a word thing, I think that the sentence behind it saying individual board members may share their viewpoint but clarify. I mean, I think that, you don't have to say, a board chair designee is speaking for the entire board, but they, because it says it in the next.
Yeah, an individual board member includes the chair.
Yeah, so you could just, I'd say like, no individual board member has the authority to speak for the entire board, that's it. And then say maybe unless the board chair is officially, like, this is not wording, but unless the board chair is officially past the speaking,
True.
And do you want to say board chair or designee? I think it's good.
Yeah, because it
Yeah.
designated someone else to do it.
Yeah. So just like these, so no individual board member has the authority to speak for the entire board unless, with the exception of the board chair speaking official, like, I don't know, getting wordier, getting rapid. Yeah.
I mean, what's wrong with that first sentence, just the way it is? What don't you like about it?
I don't like it that it's saying no individual board member other than the board chair has the authority to speak for the entire board.
Oh, you
Because
want
I
to
don't think
refer
that the board
to,
chair or designee, they sometimes can speak for the whole
I
board,
got you.
but they can also speak on their own.
So maybe I say you're kind of just recreating the two sentences, which isn't a bad deal because it is weird how they, but and not,
It's mostly just the problem with like the board chair needs to have two roles. They need to have their individual like person role, and they need to have their board chair role. And this should address both of those. Like they can speak for themselves individually. They can't speak for the whole board, except for when, like you wouldn't want to just go out and speak as board chair on something that you have an opinion about that the board hasn't discussed, right?
What if it started with the second sentence and was individual board members may always share their individual viewpoint, but must clarify that they are solely speaking for themselves, but solely themselves. And then follow up being the board chair or designee, following board discussion.
Yeah.
The board chair or designee may speak on the board. Something like that.
Is it discussion or is it, decision? I mean,
I would
it's
think decision
Yeah.
because can't just like discuss and then someone went and ran their mouth for the whole board, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so sentence 2 is first. And then it will say following, right? Board decisions. The board chair.
30 minutes before we eat, I'm gonna turn on the oven. So when do we want to eat? When do we want to break for food?
You can maybe turn on at 4.
Yeah, 4:30, we break at 5.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we do have an AC. No. It's just that I am anti the AC.
Anti.
Yeah, what we got, well, I'll tell you about it. It's a huge family, like, big thing.
Oh,
It's a huge, yeah.
And you have to give it to the AC.
Uh-huh.
We're all on board. You know who's most excited in our house when we go downstairs up at the dog?
So they've never come in the house, so that's not helping me, Andrea.
Dog's like, we want to be outside. Okay, it's really cool box. Not your dog.
We have AC portable units and fans one, and I have anti-fan.
Me too.
It's so loud and
I hate that.
windy
And it's also honestly, it's
Yeah.
occasionally on you.
Oh, and John can't sleep without a fan.
Oh, I can't sleep.
That's
In
really
fact,
nice.
loves to collect fans, and they're all over our house. Wind, and every time I come home, I'm like,
Yeah.
and then he sits there and goes, I can't hear you. I'm like, yes. I know.
And I finally just yell at her.
Yep, that's my house.
That's not the same.
We don't have a need for an air conditioner because we have those alder trees out there.
It
But
is.
if we turn on the oven, we never turn on the oven. We would never turn on it. We open all the doors and windows at night.
You don't use
It
your.
gets cold. Not, if it was a hot day, no.
Not a day you might need AC. But today.
I would do it in the middle of the night. Like,
She stays up a lot, like
Yeah.
you can for hours and hours and hours and hours, like
Yeah.
in the middle of the night.
yeah. When it's very cool and the windows are open and everybody's in bed. and I don't
Right,
have
no
to deal
one, no
with
one
it.
has messing with
That
you.
is true.
Yeah.
Love it.
Love it.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. Are we putting this in our working agreement?
Yeah, we're gonna.
Everything Abby loves.
You're gonna be a night owl.
I'm calling you at 3 a.m.
Oh, I won't.
The kids can have it for breakfast. But actually, that doesn't sound bad. And you can make breakfast.
Mhm.
Number 10. It is true when it reads. The board may be required to make findings of fact that are appealable to another agency. In these situations, no board member will have personal contact related to the issue with the parties who have a personal interest in the findings and in the board's decision prior to the time the decision is made.
Yeah, like legally, but it like makes sense.
Meant for someone's brain.
The lawyers talking.
Basically, if there's something legal, don't talk to individial parties and.
You might have to do some investigation, talk to the people who are interested in
Okay.
finding out what you find out.
That's right. For real.
Don't do that.
Alright, annual planning and evaluation.
Oh, I have one thing.
Yeah.
So sorry. It was way back up in the previous section in number 6. It says cast a vote on all matters except when a conflict of interest arises. Do we need to say something about like disclose when you have a conflict of interest? Do we need to say have a sentence? in it?
These are usually just says.
Yeah, like and like a
policy.
board member should disclose that they have a conflict of interest. And I'm okay with it even saying they don't have to say what it is or like because I don't you say
Right, but you don't.
like,
But
you
you
don't need to
have to.
say it. Like so that for the record, like someone knows that like I didn't vote because I have a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Like I stated it. So I think we should have a sentence in there. Like, we need to vote unless you have a conflict of interest. And the board member should state that you have.
So cast a vote on all matters except when conflict of interest arises.
What if you just add the word stated before?
Or stated
Yeah.
conflict of interest.
That's good.
That I love that.
They stated.
Love that. Okay. It's just something right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, cool.
Perfect.
All right, moving on.
Okay. So down to annual planning and evaluation. Set priorities as a board for board professional development annually. Spoke to that in August.
We did just have a board professional development.
Did you?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it took us from about last August to
So you make it happen. That's true.
number 2, annually affirm the board of directors guiding beliefs and value statement. September, here we are.
Mhm. But we're gonna do that in a board
Oh, this
meeting.
is kind of my Abby.
I have a board recording,
Oh.
little map in here, and so I
Okay.
wanna put these dates if they're not on there already.
I was looking at your weird crossword thing you had.
Yeah, it's. That's scheduling. Give me one second, the August one was,
Board professional development annually.
so I'm not gonna find the page, I know it's here.
Gosh, don't use 2 different colors of you when you're moving it up. I'm just gonna say
So,
Why?
that. It looks weird. Hopefully it won't show. Okay.
That looks amazing.
I'm gonna put it on letters.
August was, sorry, I just.
August is, set priorities as a board for board professional development. Your roadmap might look more confusing than we.
It's fine. August, September, October.
I just seen his total roadmap.
Yes.
There are pages here that,
It totally makes sense to him, but
Yeah. It's like a yet another legend. Go back to page 4.
Sure, love.
Go back to page 5 to get to page 13. Okay. Okay, and then number 2 seems fine, we're doing it now. Number 3, participate in establishing annual expectations and goals for the superintendent.
Doesn't number 2 mean to do it at a meeting? But you also have to affirm this. Am I correct?
so coming out of this one, so we can't make decisions in this one, but we can say, hey, as an action item on there, do we affirm our current whatever, and we can do all the revisions from the retreat, have it there,
That's right.
and then say, do we affirm this, and everybody's.
So number 3, participate in establishing annual expectations and goals for the superintendent. We do that in October?
Says we
Yeah.
do.
And it's like without those, yeah, so we could, coming out of this, that could take till October. If we got those before October, we could say we're just the right goals.
Okay, that's fine, leave it at that. If it happens sooner, all better. Number 4, objectively evaluate the superintendent's performance and provide appropriate feedback. Okay. Oh, okay, well, this is what we're supposed to do, this, right?
Mhm.
Number 5, participate in annual self-assessment of the board performance and achievement. Okay.
And then the reason I had put it on this was that it came up in that training and we hadn't done it in June, so it was like, so we could wait until the end of the year, or we could do one early, and then, like, I'm good with all of it, but that was, the reason of like, oh,
I think it was, I'm not putting on it's like coming from that thing in June. And then thinking about all these things and maybe like discussing what it is we're paying attention to, maybe personally or as a group, or like, okay, let's really see if we do that, or focus on that, or try to, and then we can measure it. Just because we've had all this fresh stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's the way to do it.
Role of board leadership. Recognize the role of the chair to speak for and about the board and to describe the board's process and position.
These anymore because they're getting tired.
one of us will do that. Yeah.
Does all that one sound good?
Yeah, I think that this is the only one where I'm like, yeah, do we need to put anything like when designated or when directed by the board or like, no?
I mean,
It's on the board chair
it's
to
kind
know.
of
It's in
inherent in the chair's duties.
Right, and they have to know, they have to be the ones to separate their personal from. Yeah.
Number 2, recognize the role of the chair to convene meetings and execute documents as appropriate. Number 3, recognize the role of the chair and vice chair to meet regularly with the superintendent to develop the agenda and determine whether an item should be scheduled for action or future action, to provide input on information needed by the board for decision making, to plan meeting processes, and to distribute assignments. Number
friend too.
I'm sending this in to, he's losing it. For real.
Number 4, ensure that information exchanged with the superintendent is shared with all board members via meeting notes and or board meeting agenda materials. The purpose of this agreement is to help ensure that no board member will receive any information regarding a matter that is not available to all board members prior to the time the decision is made. Example of such decisions includes personnel matters, official land use decisions, and charter school applications. Board expectations of the superintendent. Number 1, function together as a team with board members and the building leadership. Do we change that just because we've been taking it out? Leadership.
No, I'm not ready for that. So that. Administrators.
Okay, so number 1 should say board members and administration, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it administration or administrators? The board members and
Administrators, maybe.
Number 2, respect and acknowledge the board's role in setting policy and overseeing the performance of the superintendent. Number 3, work with the board to establish a clear vision for the school district. Number 4, prepare preliminary goals annually for the board's consideration. Number 5, provide data to the board members so that data-driven decisions can be made. Number 6, possess the working knowledge of all people and local policies. Number 7, inform the board of all critical information, including relevant trends, anticipated adverse media coverage, or critical external or internal change. Number 8, work with the chair and vice chair to effectively bring issues and information to the board. Number 9, distribute appropriate information to all board members, including a summary of meetings held with the chair and vice chair.
We don't do that.
No.
But
But that would get back to the thing earlier about making sure everybody had the same information. I mean, in some ways, the agenda is the summary of the agenda for the meeting,
True.
but I think there are part of other meetings throughout the 2 years that we've had a conversation of like, hey, we're, for the most part, I think we should, but not always. I think that's
It doesn't always happen. Like if maybe, and that's you sending it out, right? So then it's okay to just blanket send an email, right? And then everyone feels informed. Otherwise, sometimes maybe the chair or vice chair needs to make sure that, right, make an individual email and then send it to each person.
I mean, why couldn't it just say distribute appropriate information to all board members?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. So it's all right.
and that. But me seeing this part is
it is
nice, but there,
it prompts.
yeah, and having this discussion of like, hey, if you're not in that meeting, sometimes you're left in the dark there. So,
So you
there's-
wanna leave it?
yeah, I think it's a nice reminder actually.
Okay.
To leave it. Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, because it is,
All
I
right.
mean, there are definitely times, having been both board chair, vice chair, and not, there are times when I can tell a discussion is happening, from the conversation, but I'm not informed, so then I feel uncomfortable speaking to it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 10, communicate with board members by the next working day and effectively.
What do you think of that, Sue?
The next working day can be.
Yeah.
I try to be effective, but there's like
Right?
2 days it'd be better.
Or
Like, I mean, I strive for that, and I will tell you guys, like, there are days where that.
We all,
there are weeks
we all tried to get to you,
Yeah.
and we didn't get, that
Well,
was,
I think sometimes, like, I get that. I don't know if it's more tedious to just be like, at least give us a response that, it didn't get lost in the world.
Yeah.
And then if we don't hear back from you, if you're like, okay, you gotta give me a day or so, and I'll get back to you on this, or hey, can I talk, it's Wednesday, can I please meet with you by Friday or something? Then if we don't hear by then, we can reach out again, hey, you said this, is it still doable, but like a responsive like acknowledgement. If you can't give us an answer or give us time in that 24 hours, at least you've acknowledged that you saw what we said and give us an idea when you can get back to it. Number 11, distribute the board agenda in a timely manner.
We're getting better. Jared and I have talked that we want to get it out the Wednesday before the Wednesday meeting, or it's supposed to be. I think we've been through the last couple meetings, but that's something we've said. So the week prior work for folks, and then we did like those, we have those like million deletions. You need to say like, if you're gonna read through all these. Yeah.
Number 12, respect the confidentiality requirement of board meeting executive sessions. 13, treat all board members professionally. 14, communicate to board leadership if a problem or issue is observed developing within an individual board member. 15, conduct a self-assessment prior to the board's evaluation of the superintendent's job performance.
We haven't done a self-assessment before. That's one of the things that's going through. Like if in January.
So like January, you would want to.
And submit that. That's what I was reading through, like process of how what they recommend. But if I completed that in January and sent, so the superintendent eval, you guys are collecting and planning a meeting. If I get, I guess that's the question. Do I do it and send it to all of you? I can look that up. I don't remember. Before that meeting, so that you have it, or I can't remember if I'm at that meeting. I met with you, the board chair, but not everybody.
right,
So do I just submit it to the board chair? Well, go ahead.
Well, it seems like it would go to everybody when we're all filling in, so we all fill out, like we all contribute information
Yeah.
to
That
the,
makes sense.
to the process.
Do we want to have her evaluation, her self-evaluation, before we have ours?
And then you have, there's, if it's like, oh, I wonder this, then you're looking at what I say, you don't have to agree, but you're looking at what I said about how I'm viewing that one.
Yeah.
So I'd send that to you guys in January
Yeah.
for completion of the superintendent eval in February.
Okay. Okay. Number 16, represent the school district by being visible in the community. Number 17, provide follow-up information to board members on concerns and issues they have referred to the superintendent, close the loop. 18, assure the timely orientation of new board members.
I think
that's the superintendent's job.
that's what I've seen on things lately, like we've been doing, I know being new to the board, like, it probably wasn't super technically, but then recognizing like other people didn't have that OSBA training and stuff, so setting that up, but that is,
Okay.
I would love to work with board chairs on that too, but to identify, and I guess there was the thing about identifying board, PD.
Yeah.
And so in that, if we know new members are coming on, it could be, hey, let's start planning this now so that
And that also might refer to other things too, like orientation of new board members to the district and to like the district operations, not just, because you might have board members in bigger districts who really aren't familiar with district operations, or even in our district. You know?
Yeah. Okay, superintendent expectations of the board. Number one, recognize the superintendent as the educational leader of the school. Treat the superintendent professionally. Share the success and failures of the school system with the superintendent. Number four, assist in gaining acceptance and support in the community. Number five, abide by its own rules, policies, and code of ethical conduct. Number six, provide the superintendent with adequate staff and clerical assistance within budget constraints.
Period.
Yeah, period.
I was just saying, be careful with this, like, your siblings, your kids say that a lot, just as a
Exclamation mark or something. I know, I said it.
It was so funny.
Right.
It's like, you're like, period. Like, oh no, it needs one.
Yeah.
Opal too, though.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Like, oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
But in this case, I actually mean the little dot.
yeah, actually needs a period.
Yeah.
Maybe just make business run around. Period.
Oh.
Right.
That's period. And I'm like, I can say something else.
Yeah.
Okay, number seven, acknowledge and follow the chain of command of the school district. Number eight, respect the confidentiality requirement of board meeting executive session.
Oh, comment. The executive session in the last section was capitalized. I don't think it should be capitalized. In this one, or the last one. So it's not, but.
Number 12. Okay.
Just to state maybe what is the obvious, it is a requirement. And the reason it's a requirement is you can get the district in legal hell.
The executive session.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Number 9, participate as appropriate in professional development activities at the local, state, and national level.
Yeah, we're all going to national SBA conference.
Number 10, foster unity, harmony, and open communications within the board. Number
Yeah.
Number 11, understand the roles of the superintendent and the board in policy making. 12, consider each recommendation made by the superintendent. Number 13, insist on the availability of all facts and data before making the decision. 14,
Maybe not all. Okay, I think it should say, I just funny.
Facts presented,
Yeah, it's like.
all the facts.
All
There's a
the
lot of
facts.
facts out there in the universe.
Yes.
start at the beginning.
I mean, it all people.
14, study and evaluate educational issues affecting the school district. 15, avoid surprise items at board meetings. We just talked about that. 16, embody integrity of the high school. What about that? All we got about that was period.
Yeah, it's funny though. Maybe, I mean, like, board expectations of the superintendent, like, we have body integrity of the highest order and ours. Why don't we put it there too? Right?
And hers.
Or even the superintendent, depending on, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think we should. No.
Standard.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
be stated
There.
there too.
Yeah,
But
sure.
I do think
Yeah.
it's in the.
No, it's not that it isn't implied in all this other stuff either, but like, it's kind of a great blanket statement, and that's like, we're putting it in, like, if this is between two entities, might as well put it on both entities.
Mhm.
All right. Look at that.
Yeah, if we, what, can I,
Yeah.
suggestion?
Yeah.
So, I think dinner will be around 5. Yeah, if, just, for the self-evaluation, if I can just pass these out and provide them, and then you see what it looks like, ask for an answer, and ask me questions is what I'm trying to say.
Where'd you get it?
There was an easier way to do this. OSBA, it's well, what's the honest answer to that? It appears to me they want you to pay for coming to facilitate this process. So I went through the, training that Janet did and pulled those 11 things, like, performance standards, and then, searched the internet until I found the indicators for each one. Another district who posted their self-evaluation,
Oh,
and I'm cheap.
Okay.
So if we're not, I mean, there's things that I want to spend money on, and there's things I don't. And making this document was 20 minutes of time once I found somebody
Oh.
else's existing one, and so they were updated a little bit at one point. I found a pretty current district related to that, and I won't say who I met with, but somebody from OSBA, the policy analysis, we met and went through, and I was like, you get 25 free board policies, but then we have about more like 70 that need at least to be looked at. And I was like, but where do I get the proposed language? What do you pay for those? And I was like, but I could just go on to a district board policy if somebody I know is up to date. And they're like, well, we don't always, sometimes you think they are, da, da, da. And by the end, they're like, hey, we just work with this district. And so it was really nice. I was like, and I said, I don't mean to be cheap, like, we're small, and they were like, it was very nice. And, like, recognizing how small we are and that sometimes it makes sense to do this, sometimes it doesn't. And so I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So that's where I'll be looking for those. But similar process here. And so, yeah, just, 0 through 4, I think the superintendent evaluation is similar to that,
Yeah, it is.
language and process. And then these were the 12 standards in that, training, process that oulined what boards do and those kind of things. And so there's indicators under each. Now, some of those were in her PowerPoint, but not all of them. And so then I just tried to document all of them. And then these questions were more for like a discussion. Use those or don't. Those aren't provided by anybody. It was just like, what's a set of guiding questions to go through this. So take those or leave them. And this is what the self-eval looks like. And there's more domains for you all than me, so it's chunky.
It's
so
a lot.
Planning ahead on it, and it might, like, one suggestion, I think, because we haven't done this process in, like, at least recent future, or maybe, I don't know when, doing all 12 standards once this year, I think would be important to have that discussion, but then maybe using those results to say, next year, let's look at these 4 standards, right? Or as a part of the area, yeah, could shorten that process and make it actually more meaningful to say, oh yeah, this is what we narrowed in as a goal for us, this is where we're at, these are the things we did, and then maybe picking some of those same ones and some different ones or something next year could be one way to do it. But getting the baseline, I think, probably is important. This year. Cool. And I will say, some of those indicators are straightforward and it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But I think in that process, there will be some things like, what does that even look like? Like if we were doing that well, what does that mean? And so I think that's some of what we're coming out of. Yeah.
Well, thanks for doing it. I mean, thanks for saving us some money and thanks for giving us serious homework.
Yeah.
I appreciate
You
it.
don't have to do it till,
June, but it is nice to look over and think about. 'cause
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
I think you could kind of work on it with time. At least make pencil
Yeah.
notes, you know, that it's
Yes.
like, okay.
I like it when you email.
Yep, and I have it in a Google Doc that, yep, I'll share it, actually, that's it on here.
Awesome.
And it could be something that maybe a couple times through the year, we just remind, hey, don't forget we're doing that in June, if you wanna think through it.
Mhm.
Let's sit around on Friday
Or
night.
something. Yeah. When we get out at 9 o'clock, why don't you stick around a little?
Yeah.
That's
Well, I'm at the bar. I'm taking it with me to the club.
Exactly.
Michelle at like one of those big concerts that's
Yeah.
like everybody else is getting down and you're just like,
Oh my God. Not to embarrass Mizu, not just Mizu, because it's my granddaughter too, but at the country fair.
Yeah.
Mizu always had a book at the country fair. And my granddaughter too, a book at the country fair. I'm like, you know, like, there's a lot out there to like.
There's a lot in between those pages too.
Lots.
Yeah, I'm not taking this to the show. No.
Okay, so, we would be down to review district integrated outcome strategies, set board goals. Is that like where you were gonna share something?
yeah. So I shared those at the most recent meeting and I can share that, link. What if, how much longer till?
Well, that's cooking for a little bit.
Little longer?
We got, 10 minutes.
So it could be cheesy, but I do think at retreats it's a chance to get to know each other better. If you want to do, I brought
Piece of.
piece of roll.
Yeah, no, I think that's fine.
And I can, like, I put 6 questions there. They're somewhere at the beginning of
They're up in-
yeah. Which I realized the time was up for the first thing, so I'm glad we didn't do this. The rolling the dice, those 6 questions and pick, or you get to answer the one you do, and then we could use that. We can do that right for the. And we could just do 1 round. It doesn't need to be like if we really love it, we can do 2 rounds. And then break for dinner. I'll share the PowerPoint that has the language on it, so that everybody has it on their computers. I died here, so I gotta find it in my phone. That's why I'm saying that right this second. And then when we come back from there, we'll jump into the goals and other stuff. Does that work?
Okay.
All right. Board chair.
Okay. Alright. Number 5, what is your least favorite thing about school board meetings? Also that because I rolled it, I get to answer this?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. I love that I got this question because, like I kind of stated before, I love how long the meetings are. So that's literally my least favorite thing. I always leave the house and say, well, maybe I'll like be home by 8, and they always say, no, you won't. Don't even tell us that. So, sometimes they're a little lengthy or extra lengthy or like, so I just want to like maybe find ways to be a little more efficient or concise with it. Not that we don't want to hear all these different things, but maybe there's ways to trick that.
Okay. Two.
I thought we had to all answer the same question. I'm not sure.
I mean, it really is
We
just
can do
meant to
that.
be random, but if we want to start it as a conversation and keep going, that can
Oh,
work too. We just might.
Just
Let's
misunderstood.
try this, and then if there's anything people want to add, let's do
Okay.
it.
I rolled a 2. My favorite thing about school board meetings, and sometimes it happens and sometimes they don't, but I like it when the students come in and say anything. Sometimes it's concerns. Most of the time it's reports, and they talk about whatever. They'll talk about the scoring of like updates about sports and to talk about what's going on in the classes and in the houses and crew and all the PBLs. And I just like hearing the students talk about what's happening in the school, and it just makes me happy to hear them.
I hate this. Spot. What is something you want to honor, celebrate about Mapleton staff and students? What is something you want to honor? Well, can I pass? Can I have a minute? I don't know.
And then like,
Come back to it.
It's definitely a thing that puts you on the
I
spot.
don't like that either. I'm like, I'm just like,
I like
yeah.
Whoops, I got the, what's the most,
Unexpected thing about
That's
this.
what
Or in your
And like,
35 or something.
right, there's nothing unexpected. No. Well, yeah, I guess I can be, it can be difficult to hear when people don't just think it's great, that they get straight up the meeting when we got called out and there were 40 people and I was like, okay, I've seen it all. And I'd never seen anything like that. It felt really yucky. I didn't love it. So that's the most, that I would say that was the most unexpected thing that happened in my 30-some years.
We're kind of covering nobody's repeated.
Yeah.
I would say you hope to contribute to your school district out of the school. I mean, most like hope to contribute community building or like hope to contribute community. Oh gosh, I'll use since I use period community vibes. I'm not saying that that's what happens all the time because I don't feel like there's lots of times that people just won't even talk to me about it. Not because like they won't, but like I don't know, people just don't, and like I want them to, and I want so that's what I hope to contribute, and yeah.
Abby, you wanna go?
Yes, I know. So I was thinking, like, back when I was in school, I don't know, I'm sure it still feels this way, but when I was in Mapleton, I really liked the fact that I felt like, some days I would absolutely hate every single one of the people in my class. And then the next day we'd be like best friends, so I kind of like that. You kind of have to be friends with your class and your people because you kind of have to, or else you'll have no friends. So I like that.
I would say it's named by our students currently.
Mhm.
And I think we've talked about it in different board meetings and it's a space where a lot of different stuff comes together and that's who you're gonna hang out with.
Same.
Yeah.
Guess what? They're kind of very.
And even like I can think of many things where students they crack me up because they're like, and we'll literally have a thing and then somebody's like, especially if they're from the outside and don't know, or like then they're like, no. And I'm like, see, you're just siblings. Go be nice to each other. Yep. I can do that. Not all of them will apply to me. I'm not.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised. Of course, that's the one I roll.
Roll, you can roll again, or you can.
Yeah.
You can
I was
say-
trying to think of how to shift it into that, but I think it's easier to just roll again on that one. Actually, can I answer it from
As a
new superintendent,
Yeah.
right? Like without
Yeah,
having
yeah.
experience, and in a small district. So, what's the word they use? I don't know that it's my biggest learning, like, the board experience I have is 4J, right? And being at all those board meetings, and that's such a different perspective, and like, there's no way that each of those board members is connected, like, which, I can think of a board member specifically who's like, every time they shared something, I was like, well, that's because you volunteered at that one school every time, but not at all the schools, It, it was good that they volunteered that. But here, I think navigating board, like, you guys do a really good job of saying, okay, I'm wearing this hat here, your parent, but you're separate board member and parent, you're also like all the things on campus, right? And part of the community and all those things. So, and I think it's really good. It's just different from my board experience coming in. So that's the unexpected piece of like, is that what the board does? I don't know if that's what a board does, but it feels right. But what happens if it's wrong? And so like trying to figure that out. So I appreciate going through these processes and putting them in place to try to get some clarity, because it is so different when you're so small and connected to be like, are we even doing this correctly? Am I doing my job? So anyway, yeah, I think that's
I want to add to what was unexpected about, another aspect of what was unexpected about the controversial meetings that we had, was that, like in a lot of families, when you have a tough time and then you see it through and you grow closer in some ways. And since all of that fallout, there have been some really interesting connections that I've made with people I didn't know before. And I felt like we disarmed in some ways. And that, I don't know if that's unexpected. It's certainly nice.
Yeah, I think it's always difficult. It's difficult for me as a parent, community member, board member, whatever, to try and operate correctly in those different spheres. I think it is very different than being in a large board, where when you're there, it's a very clear division between your role there and your role there. They just don't connect.
Well, I even laugh on what we just went through is really important and provides a lot of clarity. And there's times where I'm like, am I the superintendent or the principal in that moment?
Yeah.
And like,
Well,
you can name which hat or hats and come at that. And sometimes that's the best you can do, but it's hard when it's complex when it's small. Complex for different reasons.
Yeah. I like our small.
I do.
We're the envy. I mean, I had spent time with other board members from other districts. And wow, I mean, what we got going on, it's functional, really. Even in the hard times, we're much more functional than a lot of the districts.
That's something, in this role or not, something I believe in really wholeheartedly is that conflict allows for growth. And I actually appreciate conflict, and just to name, I know it hasn't been easy this year, and it's, there's those times, but I think it pushes us to grow collectively and as a district, and ultimately as a community, right, to say, this is our, would have the best for everybody. So, yeah, I like it.
Not appreciating it.
Yeah, but it is how we.
Yeah, no, I recognize that stuff happens and it's good to grow and everything.
Yeah, but it's
Some people really feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But if you always wade through it, you get somewhere on the other side.
And having that perspective is awesome. Okay, it helps to have done it before. I've been here before. Been in this space where it's you can't see any way out of it, and then you move forward and it happens.
Yeah, some takes longer than others, but it's I always feel like it ends up being that was good for you. We're gonna get something out of it. Which one it is gonna.
Went to this training a long time ago and loved it, and haven't taught this in other settings since, but two types of conflict and like, let's see if I can tell this. So what they talk about is cognitive and affective, but cognitive being like the ideas and concepts. Yeah, we disagree. There's disagreement here about the concepts and beliefs, but we are not in conflict with each other personally.
Mhm.
Affective is I don't like you because because there's difference, and so separating that out and saying, and part of wading through conflict is to make sure it doesn't turn personal, right? In there, and I think we do that well. So that's the thing. That's what I'm grateful for. I didn't ask you that question, but.
Should we turn this into a meeting?
Yeah, I think that's it. You guys get it back on this. Anybody's watching, we're pausing to eat. They're not watching now.
I think you're up next anyway, right?
Yeah. So I shared that, just that year in review, and it's slide, sorry, somewhere in the slides on there, just those integrated goals that, oops. That probably, yeah. School. Oh, I think it's on this. Hold on. I did 2 presentations that day. Shoot, hold on 1 second. Goals integrated. Yeah, well, so that'll be important. So slide 2 could be connected, but sorry, I said it was gals.
Really sad it's not melon season anymore.
Oh my God. I know, I have been really, really loving the watermelons. So satisfying. I mean, like, I'm hungry and thirsty and that's
So good.
it's so good. And I'm gonna be sad too.
Okay, sorry about that. Wrong.
Mine is staying on the build up. Well, or proximal control.
Okay. There should be one more that just came through on email.
Next time, we're just not putting carpet in the bedroom.
Will you just send something to us?
Yeah, I just sent a second one there,
Should we
and
go with the second one then?
yeah, it's just the those outcomes.
All right.
On slide, yeah, but yeah, and then the strategies there. So, these can feel really like big and meaty. These are the ones. What's not included here are things like facilities that I think tie to board goals and stuff. So anyway, but I thought this would be a good starting spot for just talking through. Like, these are the goals that I end up reporting on throughout the year, especially and community building side. Did you get it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we have the 4 outcomes, and those are like described as 3 to 5 year, 3 to 5 year goals, right? So through professional development and collaboration, student learning experiences aligned to our Mapleton portrait of a graduate offer comprehensive, relevant, and engaging opportunities that support and empower every student to meet their educational potential. So, yeah, PD, collaborative environment, and then experiences that are getting to this picture of what we think good education is. And then second one, all Mapleton families are engaged in the development of individualized student learning goals. Multiple enrichment and intervention opportunities that support students to reach them are provided. C, all staff implement school-wide and classroom age appropriate trauma-informed restorative practices, including connecting students and families to services to meet basic needs. D, enrichment programming can be linked with positive changes in academic success, attendance, social emotional well-being, community engagement, and overall school and community climate. And then E, career-connected learning opportunities and programming spaces empower students to engage in Mapleton community revitalization efforts. So big, meaty, from like it incorporates a lot, and part of that's because it's integrated plan, and so you're pulling from funding pots in different spots. But I think overall, that's what we're up to in terms of education. It just doesn't feel super specific as like, here's the goal, report on this thing. So like, if this language works, then like we can use it, we can refine. But for me, it's like making those where I'm not sure too. I never quite know what to share, like, and I'll get questions from some of you guys about things going on, so then I try to put it all in the report and then it gets too big, right? And so I think narrowing in on what's the update type part of that, and what do you really want to hear about? We can do a couple exciting things. Students come in and do whatever they think is exciting, and then have them be more specific. And then that second page, but then the slide after that is integrated strategies. So those are more in the like 1 to 3 year range versus 3 to 5, and they get a little bit more specific. Create a safe, respectful, inclusive, and restorative culture that supports the social and emotional well-being of all students and adults. That is critical for academic and professional success. Communicate an aligned curriculum and develop systems for student-led communication of their learning and growth. Provide weekly professional learning and collaboration time for all educators with attention to supporting the needs of our students with disabilities. Develop programs for post-secondary college community and career planning and preparation. Expand Friday School to include educational exchange program for K-12 students. And develop programs for post-secondary college community and career planning and preparation. Expand Friday School to include educational enriching program for K-12. Is that the same thing? Yeah. I think that's case issue. I believe there's only 4. And it just, yeah, so 5 is the repeat there. That was a and pasting it in the cache. Gone.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm just like,
I think the folder I have to double check that. Yeah.
you didn't need to edit your document, alright.
It looks great. So, yeah, anyway, so, and I looked at different board goals from other districts and stuff. Most places, well, there's kind of 2 approaches. One is that boards like say, now we have these specific goals that are like about us and our supports, and then the district has their like strategic plan or goals kind of thing. And then some are just like, yep, we support those goals, and that's our goals too. So, and I guess one more context. So the end of this year, well, in April 1st, I think, the new integrated plan application and budget is due, and so there'll be needs assessment and community engagement connected to those. So these will likely change in some ways, especially in strategies updating. But that'll be playing out through the year. And then, we're like, we don't have, a formal strategic plan. Like we leaned, like personally, I've leaned more into this integrated plan. We already wrote this, that's the plan. But I do think we're at the point where there's these different pieces kind of coming together this year, and articulating a strategic plan out of that could be an avenue to go, and whatever that would be, this integrated plan. So anyway, it sounds lots of pieces there, but some of the questions from you guys is like, what do you want the goals to look like? Do you want them kind of big and airy like this, or like, no, we want attendance to hit 82% and be more specific? So I'll be quiet for a second. Like, and have you guys had, maybe for context, have there been specific goals in the past, and what was the mechanism for how those played out?
Oh, you're asking us to remember. Yeah, there's for sure, definitely we did.
Rolled a 3. What was the most unexpected thing?
Right. Yes, it's that. I don't recall, but I mean, it's hard for me to tell you what I want. I would rather you say, this is how I'm visioning this, and this is what I think would help you the most as the board. If you started this that way, then probably we could help, be able to answer the question better. I mean, me anyway, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but all of this, this information in this plan is crucial to how we do business at the school.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure what the best avenue is.
And it might be helpful, instead of starting with, because the goals, like, again, they're lofty, they're big, they encompass a lot of things. Is there specific data or metrics that would be helpful to report on regularly? And so, like, last year I tried to give attendance data update each time, brought in the literacy screener data, those types of things. Like, I don't know if that's helpful. I don't know if that's what you guys want to hear, or if it's other forms of data or input.
Right.
I mean, everything that when you share with us what's going on, whether it's literacy or it's attendance, that's important information.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what else to ask you, what would help me. I mean, whatever you bring us is more information to us.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely don't want to overload us, because we're only going to, and like Annie said, we'd like to keep our meetings not
Sure. Yeah.
they don't need to be epics. So
Yeah, it is hard to know what to ask for. Like, without, and this is one of the things that I always would turn to, like, well, how do other boards do it? Which you have done, and like looked at that. But it really is school specific, and it's us specific too.
Yeah.
But I
That's similar district to us.
Mhm.
Yeah, like I
That's huge.
Yeah, and I have a colleague fairly similar, well, a couple of colleagues, it's like their board goals are what drives their interaction with, it's like I have these 4 things and I have these metrics, and every time I gotta put together a presentation that's those things.
is that
Yeah.
helpful to her? Does she find that's?
These are actually males in the county, but
I just think that superintendents are women.
I unfortunately not much in Howard County. Does it help the board? Maybe does it help? I don't know. It's just they operate very differently, right? Like, and without being like in there, I can't speak to it, but the way they talk about prep for their board meetings and those kind of things is just very different. So then I'm like, okay, well, but it's also like they're in and out of board meetings, because like here's my data for the week. Here's those. I think the tension is like the level that's I don't know if level's the right word, but like I said earlier, you guys wear all these hats and you're connected in all these ways. Some of the questions you have about, that you asked me, and it's like, okay, those are cool, I'll put those into the report, aren't necessarily things aligned
Yeah.
to a specific goal or whatever. It's like, oh, this thing's happening, like, you want information on it, so I want to tell, and then I'm excited about the thing connected to that. I'm like, well, I'll tell you this, and then it starts to go from there. Versus this very almost like technical meeting that is, here's the technical data, which I don't feel like we operate technically, so I'm trying to find that middle ground of technical and all the things, whatever the opposite of technical in that context is.
Yeah, I just like wanted to say, like, I know I'm like, a fan of getting out of meetings sooner, but I also really like kind of just like learning information that I didn't ask for even necessarily, because then I get more information than I would have thought to ask about. And that's like, then that's helpful to move forward. So like, I don't like the idea of like, oh, we want the same thing for things every time. But then we never know about all the other million things, that are going on. So checking and balance there. I mean, this thing, like aligning it with something you're already working with. Or to me, something like, which is maybe what this is, like categories of things in each report, you would include something from it.
Yeah.
And that gives you some freedom about what to put in there, but it gives us some consistency in, what we expect to hear.
We're not helping you.
No, I think you are, because it's like, it's not that's a spectrum. We're clearly not on the go way technical, which I expected and I wanted to offer, because that's how you get short meetings. So like, that's a give and take. And I think we can rein it in. A couple ideas, well, real quick, like, do either of you have any, or you haven't really much either. Did anybody want to add?
Well, okay, so I just was, we're talking about helpful information, like data. The things that I don't know if to say this, but like the things that helped me think about like the well-being of the district, or things that tied back to this that were helpful for me, that were kind of seemed to be data driven, but didn't really have maybe numbers attached, were they were always kind of off things that you said, or sometimes in board meetings, but like the number of students that were participating in like extracurricular activities. This happened a lot during like basketball season, like getting these students that might not actually be on the team but involved in other ways.
Yeah.
And so like that kind of data is important, because that kind of plays into like the supporting of social emotional well-being.
Just that community.
Yeah. And then he also talked about like the student belonging, and so like student surveys, and like so that kind of data could be helpful. I know that is more confidential. It's not stuff that we want to know, but like,
We've aggregated that.
Yeah, that kind of data is really important, and that ties into the integrated plan. So that's data I want to know about. So that, along with the attendance and the like kids that are in the that are involved with extracurricular activities throughout the year, and things like what else have you said? Things like students that are involved with things that are specifically for kids with disabilities, or on IEPs, like Salties, like the coffee shop, and things that Terry had going on, and so students that are successfully, like, whether they're doing well, like mentally and emotionally, but also like on track to graduate, these students that are our students with disabilities, that relates to this integrated plan. I want to know that data. Like, are these students falling through the cracks? Are they on their way to successfully like leaving our school system and going into society? I want to know that. And so like those are pieces of data I want to know and want to be updated on throughout the year. So yeah,
Super.
like I want to know those things.
And they all fit into
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly. I mean, I was just kind of looking at the four things, these four strategies, and I'm like trying to think of like data points that I would want to hear from you that could go to that. And I would I would wanna hear that. And if they're not, like, I'd wanna strategize with you, or as a group, as a board, I'd wanna strategize with you, like, what could we maybe do to try to get those things up, you know, attendance up, or the sense of belonging up, or kids involved in extracurriculars, or making sure our students with disabilities are on track to graduate or whatever.
Well, there you go.
And they might always set that are reportable. Each
Exactly.
and every one of those might be.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah, and it could be also something that would be year over year, you know, something that might not.
Yeah, it might be every month, might not be every quarter, it might be just
Yeah.
like year to year. This one, we talked about this month and this one we talked about.
Mhm. Yeah, or it might be like this, 2024, 2025 school year, like, we just wanna see an improvement from 2024, 25 to 2025, 2026, like, there might not even be a month-to-month
Yeah.
improvement.
Yeah, maybe a yearly
Yeah.
thing that you report on. Yeah.
Yeah, but that data I wanna know.
Yeah, and we're funny because, I mean, those big metrics that are like the 5 for everybody are correct. 4-year, 5-year graduation, regular attender rate, 3rd grade literacy scores on
Mhm.
SBAC or whatever, and 9th grade on track. And so many of those, we can't put the data forward because our numbers are so small.
Right,
That they're not the right metrics, and so I can't even show. There's these cool like graphs that auto-populate based on all that. And if you're in a larger district, you see these trends over 5 years, and it's disaggregated by all sorts of ways. And then you go to schools our size, and you're like spotty. Well, that year we had 10 kids, you know, kind of thing. And it's like it doesn't tell a story, and data has to tell a story, right? And
Yeah.
so it's like, okay, not that one, and then but each of these are totally doable. They don't get to quite to the like learning, you know, like a literacy measure. But we're putting data in place and systems in place, especially like building on last year, especially this year, that I don't know the exact right report. I guess one question I have is, if you, let's say you get, the one about participation in those programs that are to support certain groups of students, or the one I'm thinking of from last year is like staff feedback about the PD time, right? Is it more interesting to have the data or the like what we're doing, or both, or neither? Right? Like,
I mean,
it's not either.
You're gonna have a hard time pleasing all the people because, so Mary's a data person and not me. I'm
You
way
want
more
the story
interested
of
in,
what it, the
Yeah.
what.
yeah, so, but I mean, I think there's a way to, you know,
Yeah.
split the difference.
yeah, I mean, some of that can just be like a satisfaction survey.
Yeah.
Like, you could just,
Mm.
like, you know, student and teacher, student satisfaction, really something I'm interested in too, and that's gonna be all very qualitative.
Yeah.
That's not a data thing,
Yeah.
like quantitative, that's more of a qualitative, like, how I feel.
Yeah.
And teachers too, for some of that PD, like what we're doing, how do you think it's effective? It's gonna be very qualitative, like that, some of these stories,
Yeah.
which I like. I like stories.
And even taking some quotes from those things and putting them on there to kind of show the picture.
Yeah.
Okay. The. Well,
I do like numbers, so that's
question on.
You're a number again.
And we are getting where we have both. I would say when I got here, there
Mhm.
wasn't a lot of systems for data numerically, and I think we're elevating that, but that
That's
doesn't
important.
tell the whole picture. And so it's really like now I feel like we're at a point even more, so it means like having like I need to filter what I do share even more, or it's gonna get too big.
Yeah.
And so really trying to coordinate the how, or what tells the best story with, you know, elevating the need and what's working well.
So the fourth point about post-secondary community and career planning, I mean, do you feel like we elevate that well enough in our school?
I think we're certainly doing it more, like through Europe.
Uh-huh.
I would say where we're at even the end of last year compared to the beginning of my first year is
Yeah.
huge growth.
Well, that's exciting, and I mean, I would really love to know about that, because that's actually been, ever since my kids went to Mapleton, that has been a weak point. We don't have, you know, it's just, yeah. We had to send our kids to outside of district to get college, counseling.
Counseling connected to it. Yeah. I would say now, like, we have resources in place to do that well. And I think we have families who have, you know, that's the language and what they've been doing, and they have more skills to navigate that. But for all students, we're at a point where it's like they can speak to where they are in terms of their transcripts and their goals and what next steps are. I think senior seminar and success class are getting much more intentional and narrowing down that process. We're getting more scholarships, we're getting more applications and acceptance. And we've had little classes. Like that's for me the hardest. It's like, oh yeah, 5 out of 6, 6 out of 6. You know, that it's small, but and they were all accepted into at least one college that they, you know, and that includes 2-year colleges.
For sure.
Some are following through and doing that, and some are still.
And how much longer do we have K?
That grant's a 5-year grant. I don't know if we have to pay that long in there. The funding like kind of turns over where we absorb more and more of it. But it's well designed, and she loves doing it.
Awesome.
Keep her.
Maybe not that, like, but like, to another plan, I don't know if this is something we should do or can do, but like, in the last 2 or 3 years, or 3 or 4 years, even, so some of the students that we've had, you know, they have a support through school to apply, but then they go out and there's no more support.
Yep.
And
Right.
support from is very hard to do.
Yep.
Not their fault.
But
Well, just giving them the.
Yep.
So nice.
If they don't offer classes in Florence, they're not supporting our kids. And
Right.
I'm loud at every meeting about that. They're running for 5 classes after this term, so it's getting better, but
Yeah.
getting support in Eugene is really hard because it's really hard to get to Eugene.
Yeah.
Like our kids
Right.
want to go and be successful in that.
Campus is like the hardest thing to get to.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering if like we could look for funding at some point. I understand that's like a huge ask. So I'm not really saying we should do this, but like a big plan strategy to me makes sense to say support students for like 2 years outside of school too. So like the first year is like getting them there to go, you know, like helping with the paper to get them the continued scholarships that they got, but then don't have so all those things.
Yeah.
And then tapering off the second year and saying, okay, now you get to do it, you know. I don't know, there probably are grants to do that, and it would be a cool thing to complement the things we're putting into place during.
Man, that should be institutionalized, like nationally. That is
Right.
such a huge disconnect. Okay, bye.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because it's so much, I mean, in one way, the more support we put into place now, the better. Like, we're supporting kids and getting them to do these, to like put these things together. But the difference then between the amount of like guidance and handholding we're giving them to then having none of that, right, immediately, situation is like, it's hard to succeed that.
And we have to try to carry on supports for some kids. Like just the barriers get insurmountable for like us to support when our job is K-12.
For sure.
And then it's a barrier that's outside of our capacity, right? Like if I can get a driver to drive them every day, you know,
Well, I
it's
think
really
those
us
things
doing
are, at some point they need to learn to find their own support.
Yeah.
You know, like the thing I took out of what Lisa said, which is hard is, okay, now it's time to go to college. Is all my money gonna be where I need it to be available for me? Or like, what are these continued questions on more in that counseling way. I mean, at some point, I do believe we now have a whole new fleet of kids that came in when these kids left, and that's our priority. And maybe more giving them the skills of like, okay, how are you gonna figure these things out?
Yeah.
But it can't be our job to like
Well, and as we get
get kids
better-
places or
Yeah, and as we get better at making sure they know that and are leading that process junior and senior year, they'll be more prepared for that next year. It's just really hard systems to navigate. And even if we look at last year, I mean, it's like things so beyond any school's control. I always, transportation for us is the biggest one, but, and housing, but, like FAFSA didn't get released until so late last year, and we have it, so now like, instead of like supporting them and teaching them, here's what it's gonna look like each, you know, you gotta do this next year, and this is what the process is, and empowering them, we're like, holy cow, it's released, how do we do this? And trying to learn, and we're just as unorganized as them, but not to our fault. you know?
Yeah, and then they held it back because they changed it, and they didn't
Teach them.
tell us.
I mean, I didn't get, like, I had to do fast last year, and I didn't get it, and didn't, and then the school didn't get it forever, and like, it was a mess.
And that's the whole nation, you know, and it's not to make excuses, it's just that system's hard, and so having ongoing supports would be wonderful.
Yeah.
And I agree, like,
But I'm not suggesting like that we necessarily do it with try and add it to what we're doing now.
Yeah.
But like if there's an opportunity, and I'm sure there probably is, like if we get the chance to add that as like a community, maybe it's not even the like school, but it support that through another community organization or something like that. And you know, limit what you can do. Yeah, you can't expect to like drive people places.
But folding it into the junior and senior year, like, and if that was a grant, if that would need grant money, I mean, it would take money
Yeah.
to do more than what we're doing, because what we're doing, we're maxed out.
Yeah.
But it's a thing that, it's a missing component of sending kids out.
It is. I mean, I've seen kids who like do all the work to get there and then try really hard and can't navigate all of the systems. And it's just bad because it's like, oh, then they don't continue on. And it's, you know, like, I want that to be available to them, but we almost need like, I mean, we need basically it to gear up for post graduation.
and there are, just to name, there are some models in other districts that have built like even a mentorship and connection, so they keep the kids that just went out connected to the current. So there are models that we can move in and that we've started to talk about.
Yeah.
For starters, we're getting better at what we're doing K-12,
Yeah.
but that is in the realm. I have two questions, I think. Well, so I'm wondering if, and I think those four largely align to this, but if, like, is it fair to say there's like an academic outcome that's inclusive of everything from little kids, you know, reading and math up to big kids accessing post-secondary school kind of thing, enrichment and extracurricular opportunities, health and wellness, big, like that's a lot of the access to those programs, belonging, there's different pieces that could go under that. And then I put student leadership and community connections, but that might actually fall under enrichment. Does that get it? Like, in less words, does it get to the things that we're talking about?
This would for me. I mean, maybe one like so curriculum, aligned curriculum stuff that would go in the academic one. What about like staff? Like
That's so actually instead of this one,
Yeah.
it's like, because I think that fit here. And then staff, PD curriculum, those kind of big systems pieces.
Yeah.
So that might be a way just to frame it to give, narrow in the update, hey, in this round, or I'm gonna focus on 2 of those this week, for this month. And then pull some stories or data inside of that. There's one other, I had something on here that says, so I said earlier, we're doing the, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Oh, 2 things. So the integrated guidance project, we're gonna have to resubmit that plan, and it has a process. And then we're doing accreditation this year too. And, I mean, on our end, it's hard because it's all the same stuff, but different words and different the goals, and it's measured different and reported different, but ultimately it's all asking for the same stuff. So that process will uncover some things. So one question is do you want updated on those processes and sharing data within, maybe sharing data within that or separate, or is it more keep it to these kind of overarching 4 categories with what the goings on? Does that make sense?
Not entirely. I'm having a hard time reading your brain.
Yeah.
So your thought process.
Yeah, so there's these 2 big processes we have in planning that we have to go through this year, right? Accreditation.
One's accreditation.
And one's integrated guidance, right? And we have to submit those plans and do that. And I have to, at some level, I have to give some reports on integrated guidance anyway. I think for me, I'm trying to figure out, if I have to give updates on those processes and I'm doing data updates at the same time, now it's 2 different reports and it's a longer meeting. I guess mentally I'm trying to figure out is if there's a way to merge those 2 and if there's a preference between which side. So we just shared, hey, this data, these categories could fit, something like that. How much of those accreditation and integrated guidance or integrated plan details do you think you'd want? And without knowing what it is,
I want
that
the
may be
mile
a
high
hard
view.
question.
To do my job as a board member, I don't really need the whole diagram. I feel like I need a mile high view, and try to put yourself in our position.
Yeah.
What do you think helps us do what we do? And if you're just making a report because the state says you have to report to the board, make it simple.
Short and do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And is it accreditation or accreditation?
It's a T.
Right.
Which I
I don't understand why we let it lapse.
It looks like over a decade.
I know.
Yeah.
But I can remember this was a thing. We always had to do it. We always did it. And then we put the description of that.
So there's a national agency. There's multiple national agencies, but there's a big one that most public schools use. Used to be called Advanced Ed. It's Cognia now, and they have a pretty robust process that they say, okay, you need all these things that a good school should be doing, and we stamp your school as worthy of graduating children off into the world. In Oregon, it's not required. In many states, it's a requirement. And I don't know if it's caused problems for any of our students going to a university somewhere else, right? Or college, but colleges and universities could say, wait, you don't come from an accredited school. We don't value this transcript as much, right? And so I don't know if they just look at Oregon and go, well, it's not required, and so it's not as big a deal, but it's a good process. For me, it's
a good process.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
you have to look at yourself.
And it's a continuous improvement process that's it's not even just supposed to be every 6 years that you do it, it's supposed to be ongoing. So when you get to year 6, it's like, oh yeah.
Yeah, they just throw it in there.
Yeah, and you have those systems in place, and that's what we're trying to get to. I mean, I guess my ultimate and maybe I just share this now and it's not easy to report on until it feels more concrete, but my ultimate goal is to get us where it's a 6-year kind of systematic continuous improvement process that includes the IG schedule, includes the accreditation schedule, includes plans and evaluations and all the things, and is kind of laid out and mapped, like you know what's coming.
That would make us so much more efficient and effective.
Yeah, and we're just not there yet because we're trying to get all the pieces off the ground. So, like, even just as a board landing, okay, superintendent evaluation is here, self-evaluation is here. For me, like in here, I have belonging surveys happen here, the report happens here. What are some of the other attendance and student participation numbers can be counted and reported anywhere. And it could be that, like, just like enrollment makes it into the board packet every month. I mean, it might be that we actually start to have a couple of things that are like enrollment, attendance, and participation numbers are in the board packet, and it's just part of what you look at. And if you have a specific question, you ask it, and I don't have to
I actually
put it up the wall. That's the first time I had that thought, so.
That's kind of the stuff I was trying to get to. I'm like, I don't need to, like, I agree. I'm not like numbers report heavy. And I know that Mary's brain works like that, but that's not all of what she's really wanting out of it, right? Like, she wants the info part
I just want info.
and the fun part of it and the good things that came with it.
Yeah.
Not just those numbers on a screen, but that's an easy way to give it to us.
Yeah.
And most of the time we're not gonna have a question.
Exactly.
And then, like on these big things, report to us when there's something worthy.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to know all the steps you've been doing for the last 2 or 3 months. But when you get to a reportable stage, or the end of it, or whatever it is, give us a good green light of it.
That's what I was saying. You were just asking what do you want to know about. That's what I was.
No, it's super helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think those are things that,
I want that itemized report.
yeah, but then the reporting time can be on like,
Yeah.
what's actually causing those numbers, and do it and pick the most relevant, or here's the PD plan for the year, and here's where we're gonna bring back some feedback about it, kind of thing. So, okay. Is it fair to say, like, we can stick with these goals? Like, I don't need to add new goals or have a different realm. And if I find a way to organize it in here, I'll do that. But I kind of like this, like, creating a sheet that's like the regular data that we're gonna report on, and then focusing the report a little bit more on like bigger takeaways of data. Yeah.
And if you don't have much of it, for that, like, there wasn't a lot of moving parts that are great feedback to give to you guys right now. I mean,
Yeah. Okay. There's one other. What one weird spot for me in the agenda is always the superintendent report, elementary report, middle school report, and especially last year when I was all three, I was like, oh my gosh, don't make me think compartmentalized, and so I'd start to run those together. If we just did a student report and a SU report that pulled in those things, would that work?
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
Why don't we try it?
How come, like, when I first started coming to board meetings, like, Jody would give her report and Brendan would give her report. Right. Doesn't the
That will be back this year. We haven't had a full-time person,
Yeah.
and so having them there on Wednesday nights.
So she'll
and
come.
pizza against- Yeah, she's just,
That's true.
It's not gonna be
Joy.
the meeting we just moved it to, she won't be able to
She
go
never
to.
came,
Yeah.
cause she wasn't full-time, this is an extra thing. She's got little kids.
Oh,
Yeah, Joy. Yeah, and so, and part of it is like, when you're part-time, I wanna maximize your time in the school day and not anything there. Yeah, exactly. So, that's been that, but Beth is excited to go to meetings. She'd love to. And so, and I'll talk to her, like, she's like, she'll get excited and tell you, but we'll get narrow on like, what are the couple points and put that up there and.
We could just get a hook or a cane that pulls your neck.
We could just, we could get the music, like the Oscar music.
That's so good.
So, and I will say, there are, like,
That's so good.
sometimes you guys ask a question that then I'm like, oh, they want more here. And so I think if we hold each other account, like for me, if you're like, okay, keep it short and sweet, that was too much, give me feedback on it. And then if there's a question that you guys have where like, I know that's gonna pull it longer, or like, do you want the short version of that or the long version of that? Something like that can help guide me on like, or our agreements about, can we put that on the agenda for later or build it into the next report, those kind of things, then it might,
Yes.
I think that will get it all together, so, okay. Not that calendar. Okay, so just in terms of the calendar, I did lay out like all these things that have to happen, that I'm aware of, but, I think we've already talked about the policy updates, doing we'll get all the deletions first and then do a first and a second read every month. And so that's gonna take some time. That's one of the reasons I think really get narrow on reports, because these could get a little weedy. I asked about, we put the evaluations in. And then, I put the belonging data, there's a seed survey that we get for the state, and I think it'll match that belonging data nicely, and so I put that at the end of the year. And then there's some, those updates for the IG and accreditation, there will be some we have to do, but I'll keep those super short and assume anything important we talked about across. Curriculum updates, curriculum instructional materials adoption. So science, math, and health are adopting this year, and updating process on those. There is the with health, there is the human sexuality, comprehensive human sexuality plan that will have it's meaty, and that's that could be something in the community that people want to give and know feedback there. Regular updates on those curriculum processes, just in the big things coming, like how much information do people want?
Repeat that?
Yeah.
So there's instructional materials. Ultimately, it's the board that says, "Yep, rubber stamp the." But at the end, we do a process, and then you guys say, "Yep, that's the curriculum," or instructional materials. And then there's the comprehensive. So we're doing that for math, science, and health at some level, elementary or secondary. Those three subjects. And then there's the comprehensive human sexuality plan, which is a larger plan that we have to get written. That's the only thing Division 22 that we're still out of compliance on. And we have to get it done this year. And that takes community input and opportunities. Do you want updates on that process and plan? How much of that lives in the board? Do we do a committee? I don't know. That's a big one that until we're going through it, I don't know how much feedback and input throughout the year. I told OBE, you can't just say it has to be by the state. We're gonna process that through the year. So my plan is to have pieces of that happening at different times connected to the health adoption. So we'll start with Aaron's Law is the sexual violence prevention. Start with that part, and then that will go that's both a instructional material and it goes into the plan, clearly outlined, and it's one element of a larger plan. Sex education in general, those that's a component of health. There's way more to health curriculum, but we have to land that part, and that would go in the human sexuality plan. There's other parts of it. So I want to do it in chunks so that it feels like we're making progress through it, and we have both curriculum, instructional materials like, articulated at the same time as the plan, so it feels super.
Anything that we need to go for community, like, you know, discussion or support or like approval or, you know, kind of just feel like that. I think we need to know about, like, we need to know a lot about that. Talking about it and hearing about it.
Input.
So I would say those things. You know, if it's, yeah, yeah, I think that's how I mean, a lot of that adoption for science and math, and stuff, whatever you and the teachers decide is, you know, like, I can say yes. Anything with the community, we're gonna get big community input. I wanna know.
And if we do science and math right, we're doing it the same way as health, right? So that it's a community input. I just know it's likely that health will get more input than science and math, just because of the nature of health.
And how are you seeing the input coming to us?
Well, so we'll host some community like things, and then you guys are welcome there. I can take what happens at those, bring it back and say, here's a synthesis of that. I can say, here's the next step for that. You know, like I think it can be on an update level. And I guess it's an open invitation to say, no, give me more or give me less in that, because that plan is, and it's new for our district. Even curriculum updates, doing them with input. In a lot of small districts, you just go, we got money and we need math curriculum, let's get that one. And there's some teacher input on it.
Not usually a lot of community input on math.
No.
Science.
Yeah, and it should be transparent, right? All of our adoptions should be transparent across the board. So trying to build those systems so that later, and early on, we did, I worked with staff and have gotten some student input, but we made some quick decisions because there was need and there was money. And so, but I want to get us out of that process and have things be transparent and yeah, I guess that one's a feel it out, but I want to know that may be a space that we're reporting on regularly to say, okay, where. So,
Yeah, good.
I think that's all the things.
All the things, wow.
Just in terms of reporting and yeah, I think what I'd like to do with this is try to put forth an early, like a first draft for this year of an evaluation plan for like all the things, right? Like how are we, what is the continuous improvement? Maybe it's continuous improvement plan, but what are those evaluation spots so that you guys see that and say, I can say, this is what I'm aiming for. So you see those spots, and then we'll keep fine tuning that over the years to turn it into more and more robust. So.
Yeah, great. My father was an artist, and he always would say, less is more. And, you know, so the pieces that you can give us that are going to just actually get in here.
Yeah.
I mean, you're living and breathing this 24/7.
Yeah.
We're not. So, you know, in order for us to do our job, I think less is more.
Yeah. Cool.
So kind of like, as far as calendar things go, kind of what we've done the whole time, right?
I think so. Like, I added some things based on our discussion earlier, and I'll share this out to people. Like, 'cause I think having that year-long kind of picture of what the calendar looks like. We have so far. We go back to last year's agenda of that month and say, what did we do that month? Like, it feels like that's, and then saying that it's
Well, that's the stuff that's forgotten forever.
yeah, and that's trying to get us to where it's more systematic and not just like, oh, well, we reported on IG at that month last year. Are we supposed to do that now?
Right,
yeah.
Here's the thing. So, Okay. Keep working on.
And we used to have a babysitter at the district. You know, Jaren's position was a babysitting position. They babysat the board, you know, really
In
gave them,
terms of like, here's
what's
what's
going-
coming, here's
yeah,
what's
and here's you have a meeting tonight, I'd get a phone call.
Oh, yeah.
We see, because, you know, and I was addicted to that. And I had to learn how to remember that it was I had a board meeting, because we got taken care of. And I think another thing, like you say, you know, I mean, I think we all have responsibilities at the table. And every once in a while, I'll have this, you know, like, this is important to me, and I want to know the answer. I don't have to ask you right then. I mean, the board meeting is not about my particular lovey, you know, little darling. I've got to be responsible to everybody at the table. So
Me too.
we want your reports to be shorter, but we have to help you.
I wonder, so one other idea, what I'm doing with secondary staff this year is we have a running agenda that has like a template in it that all week long they can add questions or topics to, and then I take that and make the agenda. And I actually wonder if that same kind of thing, maybe we were.
I was wondering about, like, earlier tonight, we were talking, I'm like, can we have a working document? It was just like,
Oh,
that's not against any rules.
No, I don't
And we
think
have a shared document that, and my boss even does it hard for like our agenda, and she posts it up there, and then we can stick something on there if we wanted to ask a question, she'll put it on there, so.
I
Or even that, like, the actual agenda thing, but like if I had something that, usually what I would think about, like the lights in the gym, are not an agenda item, they don't need to be an agenda item.
I just want you to know that it's a thing and it
You
matters.
know what, if it's on there enough, she may come to the meeting saying, guess what, we got the
Yeah.
lights.
Well,
yeah.
So the agenda review that we got all like throw stuff on might be good, but also like just like a virtual whiteboard thing where you could just like drop the thought on there.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to go on an
We could
agenda.
have two little living documents
Mhm.
that.
And I think there's a way to create that where it's,
Yeah.
Parking lot, that's what we do.
yeah.
Parking lot, and it's
Just to jump stuff in the place.
And the main rules around it are like, we can't do correspondence, but so if somebody says the lights, don't go on there and be like, oh my God, the lights, you know, because now it turns into a public meeting.
Everyone gets.
You could put,
I had to see her last.
you could put a times two or a,
Yeah.
yes, see me about this, or something like that. And then it is a public document, but I actually think I can take those questions, populate answers, and send that out to, like this whole thing about give summaries to the board, I can do that ongoing, so that could be the spot that's like.
Well, it could be,
these
it
are-
could be on that page that you give us the monthly update on all your attendance things or whatever, and that could just be like the update page.
Yeah.
It's our thing, and it is our job to read
Yeah.
that stuff that Sharon sends to us.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
you know,
I
Sharon
like this.
doesn't talk either, so if we look through there and if we have a question, that was on us that we didn't find a dollar question we had for him.
Yeah.
Because he's gonna sit there and talk to us.
Yeah.
He wants to, I did it, I'm a numbers guy, literally, and I gave it to you.
Yeah. That's a question of-
You just leave it alone unless you have a serious question, yeah.
Yeah, okay, let's try that, because I think that gets to all the earlier things too,
Mhm.
to have a process there and hit these things, and if there's like, I mean, like a great question there, I mean, well, there's lots of good ones, but in terms of this is like, oh, I heard about the X program, can you share some updates about what that is, right?
Yeah.
Or which students, no, well, I can't tell you which students, but like, what's the intention of that program, or where's that headed, or there is this change that I heard about, and that can go into updates that don't have to be taking time in a public meeting. So, yeah.
And we'll adapt that, learn how we're best maneuvering through it and handling it. And
And I feel like my own proclivity to like, oh, and look, what's this? And like I did it like 15 minutes ago, you know, like, and totally could be, it's held in check by meetings, actually, a little bit. So I worry that like if I have that, you know, like if I have that method to just like throw stuff up there, that then you have to spend time addressing, you know, like I don't want that to get out of hand.
Yeah, I think I can tell you guys, like, you're in the weeds. That's the day-to-day. I mean, that's an agreement that we have there to say, like,
Yeah.
if it's a ton coming, I can say, okay, now that's getting to where it's even more.
Yeah, that's a good learning. I mean, if we're just spewing things, like,
Yeah,
we need to settle down too.
right.
Yeah, there's a sweet spot. Because, we don't want these long